Okay, I'll say it now. It's the funniest book I've ever read. It's the funniest book I've ever read, and the bloke who wrote it happens to be sitting in front of us right now. Who am I talking to next, Vassal?
He's your favourite comedian, your kid's favourite author. You've sung his song like 1,000,000 times, and you're about to fall in love with his family.
It's David Baddiel.
His new memoir, My Family, the memoir, is out now and is hilarious. So please welcome, he's a very big deal. He's a David Baddiel.
Morning.
Oh, hello, everyone.
So much to talk about.
There's really a lot to talk about. We've only got half an hour. We need about 5 hours.
Yeah, well, there's the book. There's what happened yesterday and what's happening overnight, what's still happening now. There's the football tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, my
There's
goodness
the fact
me.
that Frank happens to be coming in.
How weird is that?
Yeah, that is quite weird.
And can you confirm you were both booked separately?
We were both booked separately, and also, I don't know if you know, Frank lives in my road. This is a thing about... we used to live together.
David owns the road.
Yeah.
The books are doing very well.
I'm renting it to him a bit of the road. We used to live together, right, in the same flat for 6 years while we were doing fantasy football and when we did Three Lions, all that. And then I decided, I've got to grow up, so I moved out to, live with my present woman.
How did that go?
My present woman, that
How
sounds
is that
terrible.
going, the growing
it's going
up?
very well, the growing up, yeah, just about. And then Frank bought a house like 3 doors down from me.
Three doors down from me.
Yeah, he's still living. And then we did another, and I bought another house, and he's now bought a house about 10 doors down from me. It's a very expensive form of stalking.
It really is.
Yeah.
He needs to cease and desist immediately.
But today, I'm just going to tell you something today. I got a car in, which I think was paid for by the publishers of my book.
Yes.
Frank got the tube in. Yeah, because I think he thought it was quicker.
Well, also, he's sort of promoting his own tour.
Yeah.
So he's being cheap at his own expense.
That's true.
It's
That might
interesting.
be to do with it.
Right, so in your book, by your own admission, you think you may have been victim and put yourself to the sword of the victimhood of not so much overdoing it, but overdoing it.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, in general.
Yeah, you said you may have played that card a bit too much.
I definitely have played it. I've definitely played that card, but I'm happy to keep playing it, really.
It's hilarious. It's so funny. Lookalikes. Who is the guy who you point out looks a bit too much like Great Uncle Bulgaria for his own good? Who's that?
Right, so that is my, I think it's my uncle, Osher Baddiel.
What
No
a
longer with
great
us, Osher. The Reverend Osher Baddiel, I believe he is. He taught at a Jewish school, and he looks a lot like Great Uncle Bulgaria.
Yeah.
And there was a stamp of Great Uncle Bulgaria, which I took as a stamp of Osher.
Yeah, in one of the pics, a young you looks like a cross between... I've got here...
There's a lot of pics in the book.
Yeah, there's lots of
I
pics.
should say.
I've
It's
gone
like a scrapbook.
I've gone for a squint. If I squint, you look a bit like a young Ben Elton / Woody Allen / Alistair Darling, who I used to really like, who's sadly no longer with us.
/ Alistair
You
Darling.
look like a bit like Alistair Darling.
Yeah, that's not me.
Oh,
that's my
you?
brother Ivor.
Oh, well, Ivor does then. But you look so alike anyway, don't you?
I look a lot like Ivor, yeah,
Oh,
but
my
he is
goodness
my
me.
brother. But it's interesting that you say he looks like Ben Elton because there is the stories in the book about the many times that
You've been confused for who?
Well, yeah.
Ben Elton? Who
well,
else?
well, lots of people. Ben Elton, Mark Watson, Ian Brody. Of the Lightning Seas. That happens a lot.
That's interesting.
I once got a free meal in Swansea because the maitre d' of a restaurant thought I was the sadly now late Steve Wright, the radio DJ. And, and I think just if you've got glasses and a beard, after a while, people just think you're the same person.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
That's what happens there. It's a love letter to your mum, another one.
And my dad.
And your dad, I suppose. But your mum's the star.
My mum is the star,
She might be this might be the funniest book we've ever read, and she might be the funniest woman that's ever lived.
I think it's possible, yeah.
Intentionally / unintentionally hurt.
Oh, definitely unintentionally.
Really?
No. I'm not sure my mother had what you would call straightforwardly a sense of humour, and definitely what is funny about her, like, for example, the fact that she had an affair with a golfing memorabilia salesman and then turned our lives over to golf and made our house into a golfing palace, and then to prove that she was really in love with this man, set up a rival golfing memorabilia business with the same name called Golfiana. I mean, all that is really quite mental.
Golfiana makes many appearances in the book, doesn't it?
I mean, actually, the thing is that what is great about it for me, because I did do a show about it and then wrote the book, is that it's the gift that keeps on giving, because I decided to do more research about it, and then I discovered things I never knew, right? Like, so I never knew, for example, that Willie Whitelaw, the whatever he was, Home Secretary under Margaret Thatcher, wrote my mum a letter saying how much he loved her golf books, right? And I've got the letter that she kept, because she kept everything with his crest on it or whatever. And what I'm thinking is, Willie, you don't know the half of it. You don't know why my mother likes golf, right? She likes golf because she's essentially eroticised golf memorabilia because she's deeply in love with this bloke. And I'd love Willie Whitelaw to sort of known that.
Yeah, and people, if you listen to this story, this is a true story David's telling now. We've been here before more, because as you say, this isn't sort of a recreation of the stage show, because there's more stuff going on here.
Oh no, there's really more stuff.
But I came to see your stage show. It was hilarious. And what I love everything about Dave. He's so honest about everything. And you've published some reviews here, you've published some front pages here, some digital online pages featuring you and various things that happened to you and the way it's reported. Some childhood sketches of your brother with this mysterious man smoking a pipe. We'll get to that in a minute. We will go there, I promise. Right. But also, you've printed a review from one of the West End critics, comedy critics, who loved your show, your stand-up show, loved it and said it was brutally honest, and then just gave it 4 stars out of 5. And I'm thinking, but you say you loved it and it was brutally honest. Where's the missing star?
No, I agree with that. And that's so interesting you've gone for that, right? So I'm talking about like how I did the show in the book, and then I say like I'm printing a picture here of the review. Yes. I don't have to do that, but I want you to know that it got a good review, right? And then at the same time, I thought exactly that. I thought, actually, why am I doing this? Because it hasn't got a 5-star review. It's got a 4-star review.
The guy clearly
Michael
loved
Billington.
It.
Yeah.
And also was surprised and enamoured even more so because you were brutally honest.
Yeah.
And then thought, but only 4.
Only 4. I think he's a very important like drama critic.
He's a 4-star guy.
He's a 4-star guy. I think that must have been about it.
Right, so David White is this guy who David's mum had this how many years affair with?
Well, she would have said, so my mum was not a entirely reliable narrator, right? So, for example, there is a bit in the book where I say how a girlfriend of my brother's, who she'd never met, my brother took her to meet my mum at Golfiana, the stall that she ran at Gray's Antique Market in Bond Street. Hilarious. And my mum is just talking to my brother and talking about golf and mentioning David White, and then turns to this woman whose name is Tracy and says, I've been his lover for 20 years, and then carries on talking to my brother as if nothing has happened. Now, I think that's probably about true, but how much they actually met and got it on, I'm not entirely sure, except my mum charted almost everything in erotic poetry, in diaries, and also, which is the thing that I didn't have when I did the show, tapes. She taped virtually every conversation with her lover on her answer phone.
It's an extraordinary relationship, wasn't it? Because it would be more worrying if the love or the relationship of one way or another, maybe not love, was unrequited, but it was requited. But it's almost like it wasn't. It's that kind of fascination.
Yeah. Well, for her, it was her great big amour, whatever the word is. It was a great big passion for her. Yeah. And I relate that to the fact that my mum was a refugee from the Nazis.
Yes.
And I think in her own mind or in her subconscious would have married some kind of Prussian prince because they were quite wealthy in Germany before they lost everything. And I think it was this other life that she thought she was going to lead, but couldn't have it. Married my dad, who was a Welsh working class bloke, and then was always looking for glamour elsewhere. And the only thing she could find in Dollis Hill in the 1970s was this rather smooth, pipe smoking, golf guy.
Yes.
And that was her Austrian prince, I think, in her mind. Now, for him, it was all about golf memorabilia, because one of the great things about their conversations that I love is my mum gets very sexy and passionate with him, and he's always saying, yeah, but have you sold that statue of Lee Trevino, and can I get my 10% for it? Which I really, really love.
Right, there are some childhood pictures from one of David's brothers which bring into question their
the
lineage.
Possible paternity.
Yes, and so we'll get onto those in a second or two. I think these may be the funniest pages of the book. Because there's a stick man smoking a pipe, and there's a stick man smoking a pipe, and the pipe is there, then also smoking another pipe. It's my favourite picture ever.
I woke Caroline up laughing. We were trying to stay up till 10 o'clock to do the whole, the exit poll thing. Yeah, last night.
All right.
And she fell asleep, but then did manage to get to the exit polls because I woke her up laughing at a particular bit of your book.
A very rude bit.
A very rude bit. So let's not go there.
No, let's not go there. Let's not go there. But the first person I happen to give it to is a very lovely woman who has a very loud laugh. And she told me that she had to go and sleep in a separate room from her husband because when she was waking him up laughing. So that's a nice thing. It's a very nice thing. So I don't want to cause marital discord with my funny book.
Yes. So, David, had you merely recorded My Family Not the Sitcom, which was the stage show, it wouldn't have been as funny, would it? So there is more stuff going on here. There's more juice going on here.
Yeah, there's a lot more than there's in the... I mean, apart from the stage show, which, I really like doing, and actually I've re-recorded recently for Sky, coming out in the autumn. So I'm still I like the stage show, but this is a much deeper dive into the whole thing. You're
talking about mistaken identity, photographically, but there's the biggest story of mistaken identity is from this. It's heralded with this little entry here. Theatre Diary. is Baddiel, the rudest Peter Gabriel fan ever. You love Peter Gabriel.
I love Peter Gabriel. I mean, I tell a story in the book. I mean, he turns up quite a lot in the book, Peter Gabriel.
He never went well when you met your hero.
Yeah, well, what I say, I think, is that you should never meet your heroes. People say that because, they're going to disappoint you. I think I should never meet my heroes because I will disappoint them, generally, and I will say the wrong thing. And with Peter Gabriel, it's sort of amazing how that first happened with Peter Gabriel, right? Because what's the likelihood that Peter Gabriel will happen to say to me, which he did, he said, what's going on with your wife at the moment, Morwenna Banks? And she happened to have just done a Harry Enfield show. And this was a while ago, and he said, Harry Enfield, what happened to him? And what was weird about it is that made me say, because I was trying to say, no, Harry's doing loads of stuff. He's just done a show called Celeb, which was on BBC Two at the time. And then I said, which was about a faded rock star, in fact. And I thought, why have I said that? Why? How has that happened that I've said to my hero, he's really a big hero of mine, which was about a faded rock star, in fact? Because in fact makes it sound like I'm saying, oh, you're like this, Peter, because it's sort of about you.
Yeah.
Which is not what I meant at all. Yeah. Not what I meant at all, right? And that was really awful. And actually, there was a very strange element of that, by the way, which is also in the book, which was I did Skins, that drama, Skins. Yeah. Harry Enfield is in that. And I was with Harry coming back from... Weird things happened to me, right? I was coming back from Bristol on the train with Harry Enfield. And Peter Gabriel got on the train. Now, how can that happen? How can that possibly happen? But it did.
Because you're in the Truman Show.
Yes, I'm in the Truman Show. Peter Gabriel comes and says hello. Then he goes away, right? And then I thought, I'll tell Harry that story. I'll tell him the story about, what I said about Celeb and saying in fact and how embarrassing it was. And Harry Enfield didn't laugh. I thought he looked really annoyed. And then I realised, of course, all he's thinking about is the fact that Peter Gabriel said, whatever happened to Harry Enfield. That's all. So now I've screwed it out with someone else I really admire and respect.
And so what happened with this, you being the rudest Peter Gabriel fan ever?
What happened with that is I went to see Peter do a show at the, I can't remember what it was, Astoria or something. It was a very kind of orchestral show. You were meant to stay quiet during it because it was quite serious. Next few days later, I'm in the Times, apparently shouting and being drunk and offering people out for a fight during it and just being the rudest person ever. And I thought, did I black out and forget that this happened? How did it happen? I actually got Richard Curtis. I'm going to name drop Richard Curtis, who was the bloke I went with to this, to write to the Times to say this wasn't true. It definitely wasn't true because the Times reported me as saying to one of the people in front of me that I'd paid for my ticket and I could do what I liked with it. He said he didn't pay for his ticket. I did, right? Richard Curtis said that to the Times. And then I went on and on and on and on and on. Eventually, I wrote to Peter Gabriel. I said, do you know anything about this? And he got his tour manager to write to me and say, I think it was this guy. And it was Ian Brody. It was Ian Brody from the Lightning Season.
It was Ian Brody.
No, to be fair, I've talked to Ian about this.
Yes.
And Ian is a lovely, lovely bloke. And it was just he had an out of character moment. He got a bit over, and he did create a little bit of trouble. He's never normally like that.
I can't imagine that.
No, well.
He's like the softest spoken,
he's a
most
lovely,
affable
lovely,
human
lovely
being.
guy. He's a lovely guy.
He was offering people out at an orchestral Peter Gabriel concert.
When I first spoke to him about it, I said, look, was this you? Because I have to speak to the Times. The Times are going to apologise, so I have to clarify it was you. He said, yeah. Don't tell anyone, right? But obviously I have told anyone. But since then, I've said, look, I'm doing it. I'm talking about it in stand-up.
Right.
It's in the book. Is that all right? And he's fine about it.
Yeah. So was he shouting like, play Sledgehammer? What was going on?
I actually don't know because he went on another night. Because that's the level of mistaken identity, right? I wasn't there on the same night as he, and I was there on another night. But according to, everyone, if something's written about you know this, in print, people believe it, right? So my brother, who we've referred to, who knows me well, had read this in the Times, and he thought, oh yeah, that's probably true about David. What are you talking about? It says I offered out 3 security blokes. You know me. That's very unlikely.
So funny that even your brother... It's confirmation bias, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, totally.
So before the stage show of My Family, Not the Sitcom, and this is very much sort of the bedfellow of that show, should we say that? I think it's better. I love the show, by the way. I would have given it 5 stars out of 5, but I love the book even more. Maybe that's because it's in the here and now, and I live in the here and now, and maybe that's why. But you felt like you had to ask your family's permission for everything for a while, and sometimes that was forthcoming, sometimes it wasn't forthcoming, and then your mum passed away unexpectedly. And another thing that jumps out at me when you talk about your mum passing away unexpectedly is that you had to attend the doctor's arrival because of the death certificate.
Yeah.
And I thought, isn't it funny? As a kid, you get a certificate for swimming 10 meters, 25 meters, but then you get your certificate for dying.
I know, that is a strange thing. It's actually...
I don't want that certificate.
No, it's not what I want, even though you're quite proud of the other certificates that you've got, the swimming ones and all the rest of it. The death one, it's not one you want to win.
And why did we get so excited about a certificate? It's such a legal sounding certificate. Yeah. I want a badge. I want a curly whirly.
Yeah, but can I just tell that story? Because actually, the one I remember more is when my dad died, right? Yeah. My dad died, me and my brother, and it's a very strange thing to have to do, was sitting there waiting for the doctor to turn up.
Yeah. Now, your dad had been ill.
Yeah, my dad had been ill, and he was on a bed downstairs that had an electric mattress on it that would move about, right? Because we were trying to stop him getting bed sores.
Yeah.
But he's dead by now. The doctor comes, and he goes over to look at the body, and he accidentally presses something, which means that the bed starts moving, right? And no one could turn it off. He didn't know how to turn it off. I know how to turn it off. And he actually said, the doctor, I don't think I can pronounce this person dead while he's moving. And I wanted to say, I'm not a medical man, but I think that is normally a contraindication.
Seriously, they're working the doctors too hard nowadays, aren't they? Yeah. And also, where would that be with a deceased body, a freshly deceased body, moving the body, because they tend not to want to be moved. Look, yeah. I've actually highlighted that bit there because that's on the opposite page to your mum.
Yeah.
And I've written something about the electric bed.
Oh, right.
My mum, it took a lot longer to pass than she thought and we thought, and she was a nurse and she'd been there before with my dad, who suffered from a very similar illness, and she said she didn't want to go to hospital, so we bought her one of those beds.
Right.
And I was thinking, I don't know, what did you do with your dad's bed, because obviously my mum only used that bed for quite a short, I mean, it was nearly new when it was no longer needed, we gave ours to I think we gave it to Marie Curie or someone.
Yeah, I think
like
we
that.
gave it to a hospice. I'll be honest with you, this is an interesting question, right? Because we've referred to my brother, Ivor, and I talk in the book how if you have quite mad, dysfunctional, neglectful parents, then you rely quite heavily on your siblings. I think I still rely quite heavily on my brother Ivor, because he's the person to ask, because he will have taken responsibility for all things like sorting out where my dad's electric mattress went.
Yeah, and who lives in America? Which one of your brothers lives in America?
My younger brother Dan, who is the person who was Mr. February in the Taxi Driver calendar of 2018, and he's naked in the back of a New York cab.
You have a very funny
I do.
Don't you?
Yeah.
Literally, what a laugh.
Yeah, no, they are. They're good material. And that's one of the things about the book, right? They are good material. I tell you, because I listened to Spare, right? I listened to Spare by Prince Harry. I listened to it, right? Okay. And I thought one of the things about this book is it's very, very angry, right? And it doesn't have a lot of laughs in it. Now, I think he's got a lot of material. And I think it's just how you look at your family. Because I think if your family is quite dysfunctional and weird, which his family is as well, then what you can do is treat it as a comedy or not. And I think he doesn't, and I do. I think it's mainly funny, and that's salvational for me.
Yeah, and also anger is so tiring.
It's so tiring.
Because you if you have enough anger, you become anger.
Yeah, no, totally.
And if you can distance yourself from it, then you just have it, and it's easier to reframe as something funny. And it's a real missed opportunity. And whatever message you're trying to get across is always served better with humour.
Always.
Than I don't know.
Yeah, message you want to get across, but also for yourself.
Yeah, no, for yourself. 360,
because,
it works all round,
yeah,
doesn't it?
because for me, like, I've been in therapy, but I was always...
Really?
I have.
No,
but when I was talking about it, about my family, I always thought, like, I'm trying to take this seriously, but it involves the words golf memorabilia. And once you're there, you start laughing, and then you're not really taking your own therapy seriously.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And the whole point about, if you forgive someone, you are accepting the apology you're never going to get.
That's true.
And in the moment, you are off the hook, and you can flow again, and your blood pressure comes down, and you're present again, and your vision widens.
Well, I'll tell you something else, is that someone said to me about this book, said, God, it's so unjudgmental. Your mum had an affair, and your dad was so angry, and you never judged them. And I said, yeah, because I'm interested in understanding them. And if you judge someone, then you stop understanding them, don't you? The minute you say that's a bad person, you're not really interested in asking any more questions.
Yeah, and also if you judge someone else, you're putting this sort of wall of protective, impregnable barrier between you and you having to do something about whatever it is, or you taking the baton from the generation before or the situation before, and surrendering to it in the moment, and then taking it into the future.
Yeah, no, that's true, and also. the reason people are like they are,
Yes.
there'll always be reasons for it, right? And the reasons are complicated and poignant. As I say, my mum was a refugee from the Nazis. She had an incredibly traumatic early life. My dad's a Welsh working class bloke. His twin brother died when he was young. You know, there's lots of reasons why people are like they are. And then you think like, well, forgiveness comes in understanding that. Yeah. And also comedy comes from that.
Yeah, and life doesn't need your help to cover part of your life in Manure. It will do that anyway.
It will totally do that anyway. That is so true,
it's true, isn't it?
Yeah, no,
but that's guaranteed.
Yeah. No, exactly. But one thing I think is really important, there's a quote here, which I won't say it exactly, because it involves a small swearer, but Julian Barrett, I had to phone up to check that he said this.
Say the word P.
Okay. Yeah. Julian Barrett said, to really take the P out of something, you have to love it. And simply, we've got Frank on, right? We did Fantasy Football, a comedy show about football, because we love football.
And you love each other.
Yeah, and we love each other, yeah. But there's a thing now that I think people think that laughter is just mockery. And it so isn't. It's a really, really communal thing that shows you love something.
Yeah, that said, you do admit getting it wrong, because you talk about somebody in the book, and you said, I didn't realise he had feelings, and then one day I saw him in a restaurant.
That's true. I mean, that happens. That's true, and that depends on the type of joke it is. Sometimes a joke is going to just be bringing someone down, but a lot of the time it isn't. A lot of the time you just have to look at the joke and think, actually, this joke is about just having fun together.
Yeah.
Which sounds very childish. Well, I've just said that, but I think it's true.
Were there two Henry Kellys? Because that's who we're talking about.
We are talking. Were there two?
Were there two? Because Game for a Laugh had the Irish Henry Kelly.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about.
I know, but who was the guy who did Stars in Their Eyes?
No, that's the same one.
No,
that's not. No, that's Matthew Kelly.
Matthew Kelly, but they were both on Game for a Laugh, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. Yeah. They were both on Game for a Laugh.
Are you going to stick around?
Yeah, because Frank's coming in. Yeah. I don't want to cramp his style his bit, but I'll say hello.
I shall mediate the situation accordingly.
All right, okay.
David Baddiel, My Family, the Memoir, probably the funniest book I've ever read. Definitely the funniest book I and Vassos have ever read in the few years that we've been
absolutely right.
Together.
Really laugh out loud.